Question 9 wants us to take this rational equation and graph it. I think one of the trickier parts of this one is going to be uh, making sure we know how to use make it work on the graph there. And I haven't done this yet, so we'll do it the first time together and see if we can get it to work. Hey, remember our recipe. The first thing we always do is we want to factor the function. So if I factor it on top, make sure you take out a factor. Let's do that up here. Take out a factor of 5 on that out of the top, and then you have x squared plus 5x minus, oops, took out the 5, so it's not a 5x anymore. Let me fix that. So it's going to be x squared plus x minus 6. And then we can factor that further. So I got 5, and it'd go x, minus 3 and plus 2. Right, factors the negative 6 to add up to be 1. On the bottom, we can take out a 2x, and that would leave me with what, x minus 2 down there. I think I need to switch my signs up here, right? If I add negative 3 and 2 together, that gives me a negative 1. I want a positive 1. Glad I caught that. Let's fix that. All right, so right, factors of negative 6 add up to be a positive 1. It'd have to be a plus 3 and a minus 2. And that will work out here because now the x minus 2 and the x minus 2 reduce. But before we do that, the domain then is x cannot equal those two numbers. So that gives me a 0, right? If x is 0, I get 0 on the bottom. And if x is 2, I get 0 on the bottom. Now just decide if those are holes or not. So to do that, reduce that. Sometimes I like writing it this way sometimes. This is f reduced. Those reduce, so I have 5 times x plus 3 over 2x. Okay, now, because the x minus 2 went away, that means 2 is a hole in the graph. So I know I have a hole in the graph at 2 something. And to find out what the y is, we just did that on, what was that, question 7 or 8. We're just going to plug 2 into here. So I get 2 plus 3 is 5, times 5 is 25, over 2 times 2 is 4. So we end up with a hole in the graph at 25 fourths. Okay, vertical asymptote. 0 did not reduce out. So we know that there's a vertical asymptote at x is equal to 0. All right, next thing we do is the end behavior. These two are both degree 2s. That means they're tied. So it's going to be at y equals 5/2. That is my horizontal asymptote. Just take the leading coefficients, right? Take the 5 over 2 because they're tied. And then it wants plot a point where the graph crosses the x-axis. So let's find that. So remember, to find the x-intercepts, you plug 0. And we can either use the original one, which is bigger, or the simpler reduced one. I'm going to use that. But you plug 0 in for y, and we want to solve for x. So I go 0 equals 5 times x plus 3 over 2x. Well, remember, for a fraction equals 0, that only happens when the top's equal to 0. So really, I only, and I got it factored already. I just want to know, when does that x plus 3 equal 0? So I minus the 3 over. So my x-intercept is at negative 3, 0. It didn't, and this one's not going to have a y-intercept. I plug 0 in for x, but I said x can't equal 0, so it won't have a. So let's see if we can draw a sketch of this then. I'm going to draw it first, and then we'll see if we can get it to work on the actual assignment there. So we know there's a whole 25 fourths, by the way. Isn't that what 4 goes into 25 6 times? Right, 6 times 4 is 24, so that'd be 6 1/4. And y equals 5/2 is 2.5, right, or 2.5. Okay, so I know that there's a hole in the graph at 2 and 6.25. So that's hard to draw, and I'm interested to see how this is going to work on. That's a hole, so we don't want to put a point there. Let's just fix that. So we know that there's a hole right there. I'm interested to see how this works on the graph. We'll see. There's a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. There's a horizontal asymptote at y equals 5/2. That's 2.5. You go in that direction. We got an x-intercept of negative 3, 0. Going right there. And it only crosses the x-axis once. So that's the only spot. So This one, I know it's got to follow this horizontal asymptote as it goes out. And then if I'm down here, it has to go down along that vertical asymptote right there. This side, it it can't. I'm going to show you really quick. It cannot be down here, and the reason why is because it would have to cross the x-axis, which it doesn't. So that means my graph has to be up here, which makes sense because we have a hole in the graph up there, right? So it's something like this where it comes down along there. Then as I go up, it's going to keep going up. It's going to keep going up that direction. So it says use the grid graphing tools to draw the vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote, and plot a point where it crosses the x-axis. So maybe it won't ask for that hole in the graph, but let's try it. Let me pull that up here, and we will try it and see if I can see if it works. Um, hopefully, it's not terribly complicated. So if I pull up the actual program here, so draw a vertical line where it has the vertical asymptote. So we want to do a line, and we're going to go right there. Okay. So we drew a vertical line where it has a vertical asymptote. It says draw a horizontal line where it has a horizontal asymptote. That was at 5/2 or 2.5. So let's go up to 2.5. Okay. I don't think that's a hole. I think it's just because I clicked on it. Okay, and then plot a point wherever the graph crosses the x-axis. So it crosses at -3. Okay, and I think that's all it wants. So it doesn't even want us to actually draw the graph, even though we know what it looks like. Let's see what it does here. Okay, so it says partially correct. I think it didn't like where I put those points. Seems like it likes the line, but not where I put the points. Let's try this again and see what it says. So I'm going to clear this. Okay, so got to have one at x equals 0. So we're going to do a line. Okay, so there's my line. And it wants a line at, we got to do it at what, 5/2, 2.5. So I'm going to come over here, and over here. Whoops, let me undo that. You guys, I'm sure, will be much better at this than I am. Okay, so there's a 5/2, and we want to put a point at -3. Okay, so I have less points there. I think I may have just actually thrown one in there. Let's see if it likes that better. Try it again. Now we're good. So that's going to be a little bit tricky, and it's kind of weird. You're not actually drawing the graph, just the vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote, and the x-intercept. But, in some ways, that's kind of nice because it makes our job a little simpler there. So anyway, that's it.